Welcome back. Operation on the Rocks, episode 5. Like Lil Wayne once said, sorry for the wait before the Carter 3. It's been a long time since we've seen you guys, but we promise there's going to be some more consistent content coming here. So please like, subscribe, and comment. With that being said, my man Sean, tell us about what you got to us to drink today.
Man, let me see what I got, man. Let me take a good look. So today, we're doing this Woodford Reserve. I highly recommend it. This is if you're chilling with your boys like now, or if you're just, you want to get right before a date night. You don't want to get too slizzy, but you want to be right. You want to be in the right state of mind. This is what that's for right here. So, 45 proof, or 90 proof rather, 45%. Can't go wrong. So we're going to be sipping on that tonight. And I'm just happy to be in the presence of my guys, man. Get ready to talk some serious stuff.
Well, let's get straight to it, man. So before we get started, and tonight, I expect some fireworks tonight, fellas. We're going to get down and dirty. That's what this podcast is all about. Hard truths, politics, many other things. But as I said, I got a surprise for you guys tonight. And this is a surprise. And it's going to take some deep reflection and probably some personal things that you guys, So here's the scenario. Your 8-year-old self is in the room with you right now. And this 8-year-old self has all the hopes and dreams that he did at the time of your being 8 years old. But he also has awareness of everything you've done, everything you've ever said up until this point in your life. Knows about your family, knows about your career goals, your personal goals, all of those things. Would your 8-year-old self be proud of who you are today?
That's deep, man.
Some Matrix type stuff, my guy. I like it though.
It's deep.
What you thinking, Noe?
I think that my 8-year-old self, if I had the same knowledge and all that type of stuff, would say, slow down. Slow down and focus on what's most important. I have a lot of objectives that I'm trying to accomplish right now, but I do tend to get tunnel vision and lose sight of what's most important. So I think that if he had the same knowledge that I have right now, he would definitely say, hey, man, focus on what's going to be important at the end of your life. And so, yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Facts, man. What you thinking, bro?
The short answer is I think that my 8-year-old self would be proud, but having all of the knowledge of everything, my 8-year-old self would also be knowledgeable of all the things that were not executed so well, mistakes, things I could have done better, things that I still continue to struggle with, and be like, dang, you're in your 40s and you're still struggling with that, So, but I'd have to explain to my 8-year-old self that life is complicated.
Yep.
And things don't always work out the way that you want them to. And what you're always trying to do is strive to put the best version of yourself in the universe. And as long as you don't quit, there's still a chance.
There we go.
I love it, man. I think, 100%. I agree with both of you guys, man. I agree with you in terms of, I think hopefully my 8-year-old self would give me grace, right? And give me, a little bit of leniency in terms of some of the mistakes I made, and not being confident in certain aspects of life that probably could have propelled me further. I think is what I would hope my 8-year-old, and you're talking about an 8-year-old, but kids are,
they're very dreamy,
intuitive,
perceptive,
and they're very perceptive. So maybe they can say truthfully, no, the way that you're moving, you shouldn't be moving like that, or you're doing the right thing, but maybe you forgot about this thing over here.
Yep.
I think my 8-year-old self will probably point out some key things for me. I think he would be proud, though. I think he would be proud of the man that I am today. But to Marchione's point, maybe he'd be like, hey, man, you're missing a couple things.
Yeah. And I've cheated a little bit because obviously, I posed a question to you guys. So I've had a little more time to think about it. And I think if my 8-year-old self were in the room, he would be proud of a few things, right? He'd look at my wife and be like, wow, you outdid yourself. He'd look at my children and he'd go, oh man, like that's beautiful. Right? Even though he's 8, don't really understand like the concept of the family dynamic yet. He'd be very happy with the choices thus far. He'd probably be impressed with like, oh, wow, you were a police officer, you switched to information technology, you've been in the military, you've done this, you've done that, you've been there, you've been there. But I in my adult self and my 8-year-old self would probably feel this, but in today's age, and this brings up another topic, AI possibly automating humans out of jobs. Who knows where that stuff's going?
Yeah.
You know, I feel that my professional life is always shaky because of these things. And so I feel my 8-year-old self would kind of be a little thrown off by that if he could understand it.
A little worried,
But
man.
that's the only part in my life thus far. But then again, that comes back to the religious point that we've talked about many times on this podcast, and that's you got to trust in Jesus.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah.
So
Agreed.
1000%.
with that being said, tonight's hot topic. All right.
Quite a few, I think.
Episode 1 of Operation on the Rocks. For those of you who've never seen us before, don't know anything what we're about. Donald Trump's second presidency.
Should I take a drink before we get
You should probably take a drink.
Probably take a sip.
You should, you probably take a sip and get some time to gather your thoughts. So I'll leave the floor open to you guys. And the question I want to ask is this. How do you feel about the current state of political affairs in the United States? Specifically around this administration, AKA Donald Trump's second term in office. How do you feel about everything going on? And this includes your personal beliefs, your personal opinions, but also I want you guys to kind of be objective in your pros and your cons about this.
I got a super short answer, and I do want to speak in analogies right now. Have you ever, and not that we are trying to impress anybody else, you know, in the world, have you ever, you know, been dating or something like that, and somebody that you really favor, you know, really important in your life, and you're ashamed to bring them home? And there's a couple reasons you're ashamed to bring them home is because you got that uncle who just doesn't know how to talk, or your mom or your dad. There's just certain
I think I know where you're going with this, sir.
You know, yeah, there's just certain things within your household that just, you know, that the rest of the world is like not hip to. For me, it's like I feel sort of, and not even speaking against one political figure at all, just everything that's going on at home right now is sort of embarrassing. Because where we used to be, it was at the pinnacle of everything, right? But now people are sort of like, man, like, is that really true? Is it really popping off like that over there? Y'all really, you know, and people are sort of looking at us. Anytime you have another country like laughing at you or questioning and sort of being like, what the heck is that? That's always, you know what I'm saying? It's a bad thing. And so for me, I'm a little embarrassed by how things are right now. I'm gonna wrap around on a lot more things later on tonight, but I'm gonna pass it on to y'all.
Man, I mean, I feel the same way, man. I mean, obviously I'm proud to, let me make this clear, and I think I speak for all of us, and y'all let me know if I don't, but I think I speak for all 4 of us when I say I'm proud to be an American.
100%.
I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be
gotta
born
sing that, though.
here.
We shouldn't be ashamed of it.
I'm not ashamed
because of
being
politicians,
American.
right?
No. I'm proud of that. I am embarrassed by the political theater that has taken place over the last 10 years. I think it's turned into a circus. I think we have allowed our innermost extreme thoughts and skeletons in the closet to reveal themselves to the world. We have totally, pushed aside any level of decorum for the sake of, I don't know, being a cowboy, being whatever this mythology is that has been spun up to present to the world. And I am embarrassed by that because we are so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
We are that. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of cowboy. Nothing wrong with being, proud of where you come from, raising that flag. But we are more than just one segment of that. And I think it has been fed to us. And now that we are seeing the cows come home, for lack of a better analogy, and you start seeing some of these people in the administration fall, get betrayed, get fired, lash out on Twitter. We're starting to see that it's all a facade. And I think the world is seeing that, to Noel's point. And I think it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah. So to the question, and then to how we're speaking about it right now, there's a couple of different things, but I think, Noel, from what you said, I'd like to use the family analogy. So my grandparents, who were the matriarch and the patriarch of the family, you know, my entire life growing up and and then in my 20s, my grandfather died. And once he died, in the family, we got together for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we got along, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when my grandfather died, the entire family dynamic changed. Then people started to have stories about him or the family or people in the family, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've come to realize is that it was always that way. It was just being covered up or not as seen. So I think what you're seeing, and a lot of what we're seeing, there's a certain extent of it's always been this way. We just haven't had the Twitters and the IGs and the and all these communication styles and people being able to speak to massive amounts of people in the way that they have been able to over the past 10, 20 years, the whole social media revolution. And there are a lot of positives with that. And what we're talking about are some of the negatives with that. The great thing about social media is that it gives a platform to someone who wouldn't normally have a platform. And the terrible thing about social media is that it gives a platform to someone who wouldn't normally have a platform. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I am very proud to be an American. Restate the question, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So I was wanting to ask,
if you want to comment on that and then come back.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys specifically,
there was a piece
right?
about the holistic term.
What are things that you're displeased with, and what are things that you are pleased with, aka your pros and cons of what's going on in the political climate? It's open to any and all topics.
Okay. Well, you guys know that I am a pro-Trump guy. I voted for him twice. I did not vote for him the first time. I voted for Hillary. How about that, Internet?
That's interesting.
Yes,
Really?
Yes.
I never knew that.
Yes. I
the cat is out the
converted
bag.
over to Trump after the first term because, well, two reasons. And I know this is kind of, I'll make this quick because I know this is out of base.
No, go ahead.
For
I'm
the
curious now.
But I was out of the country at the time. And Trump was a revolution in politics. You know, like look at what happened in 2020. You had like Tom Steyer and all these other billionaires who thought, oh, all we have to do is run. Holy crap, you know? So when he first came down the golden escalator, it was a shock to a lot of people. Still continues to be a shock to a lot of people. And I didn't quite buy in on that. I also voted for Barack the first time. So I have voted Republican and Democrat before in the past. Not anymore though. I pretty much vote straight Republican now. But back to the point of what changed. I started to understand what Trump was doing and the MAGA movement was doing, which is essentially a system that did not work the traditional politician, And that's what brought me to it. Now, if people disagree with that, that's a separate conversation. But getting back to what's working, what's not working. So I say that to say I'm a Trump guy. I'm still with Trump. We don't love wars, obviously. We want to see what plays out here. There's a lot of complexity to the Iran piece, but to keep it simple, you know, the news that we're hearing is that they're going to run out of space to store their oil. That's going to be the big forcing mechanism, We'll see what happens there. So we don't love the war, but we understand that something needed to be done. Even Kamala, when she ran and she was asked what the biggest threat in the world is, she even said Iran. So, and everyone just knows. I mean, it could be North Korea or whatever, you know, everyone just knows Iran's an issue. And at some point, someone's got to do something. But overall, 80-20, I know I'm going long with this, so let me try and wrap it up. 80-20, so is kind of the metric that I have, and I do believe that 80% of things are more positive than the negative things. Didn't love the Jesus picture okay, you know, he
was
did take it
interesting.
down,
Yeah, that
right?
was-
He
that
did
was an
take it
interesting
down.
thing.
You know, so there are some miscues there. You'd mentioned people getting fired or released or whatever. Pam Bondi fumbled the Epstein. Even though I'll also say the only reason we have as much as we have on it is because he's in office, but still there's a fumble there. That situation is still not fully complete, and she's out, so didn't love that. But Trump is the most relevant person on the planet. People absolutely, when he's doing something, it's newsworthy, it's world newsworthy. There are a lot of positive things, even in the military community. This will be my last point. I'll pass it over. Even in the military community, 2 weeks ago, you know, he signed the executive order for I don't know if it's psilocybin or what the treatments are for PTSD.
Yep.
You know, Rogan was there.
Ibogaine.
You know, so like a lot of items like that. Okay, cool. You know, even though that wouldn't be my personal treatment, if that's something that could help the veteran community, okay, let's look at that.
Yeah. Sean Ryan actually credited Ibogaine to
Ibogaine, that's the
alcohol.
one. Yeah. Mhm.
His sobering from alcohol.
Yes.
So-
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And that's, you know, one of the many thousands of stories of people using psychedelics or
Which
some
I
sort
find-
of
I find very
psychedelics.
Interesting that he approved that. I think it's interesting what they're doing with drugs.
Well, they're studying it. They're not really.
They're adding
Yeah.
money to research because
Correct.
they're doing it as well with marijuana. I think it got stepped down to what is it, a class 3
Yeah.
drug or whatever it is.
And rightfully so. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, rightfully so, man. Well, Marchione, I gotta say, man, first of all, thank you for being honest with us. I didn't know that you kind of voted left in the past. That's very
Yes.
interesting. I think we all can agree that DJT has a lot of charisma, and I think that was one of the big points you made was his charisma. I do have a follow-up question for you. When you say there's more positive than good, what positive, besides him being relevant,
Mhm.
which is a very individualistic, you know, boosting his own profitability and ego statistic, other than that, as the president of our country that we love, what other positives have you seen that you say, yeah, like this is pushing America to the next level for all Americans? And I want to make that very clear, all Americans.
But there's nothing you can ever do to literally capture all Americans. Like
No, just a couple things
but you know what I'm saying? Like to capture literally all Americans. Like, so that metric, I don't know. I understand the spirit of what you're saying, but in generally speaking, something that helps the wider population of America. Look, I think that something needed to happen in Venezuela. I think that was as clean of an operation as you could possibly ask for. Even though gas is through the roof right now, that also, even though we don't even use any of Iran's oil, that affects all of us. UAE's pulling out of OPEC. I see gas prices coming down ultimately when this is resolved, because it will be resolved, right? It will be. And that being something positive for all Americans. I think generally speaking, the stock market hitting record highs, even Americans who don't play in the stock market, generally speaking, is a positive thing for all Americans in the economy. So even if you're not in the stock market, those companies are hiring people, and so much of their business health and valuation is based off of the stock market. That's something that's positive for all Americans. I think that a lot of the executive orders that have been signed have been positive for, well, that's actually a little too specific. Those might be the best examples for something that's literally, quote, all Americans. The Trump RX and the favored nation state for prescriptions and all of these things that came from executive orders that are still in process. They're still being worked out. Access to GLP-1s, whether or not you agree with that or not. Access to IBF, whether you agree with that or not. There's more things that can ultimately end up positive for a wide spread of Americans than end up negative. Yeah. Is that a fair answer?
No, I mean that's
Okay.
fair. I appreciate you sharing. And the reason why I ask is because at the end of the day, like, what I love about your approach is you stand on business, dog. Like I vote. This is the way I voted, and I'm standing on what my principles are in that regard. And the reason why I asked you that follow-up question is because I feel like every American deserves the right to vote the way they want based on their principles and what their household is and what they'd like to see for the future. I also think that Americans should be held accountable for their vote. And I also think people should be held accountable for, lack of a better word, the fuck up or mess up that proceeds or follows with that vote. And so, and without getting too far into it, because I know you had your base question there, but you know, you look at some of these other conservatives, some of these other Republicans, and they are having to publicly denounce and publicly kind of retort their vote. And we're talking about hardcore
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor.
One I thought I would never see.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see that.
I mean, Tucker Carlson was hardcore. Megyn Kelly, these are hardcore. Candace Owens. These people were screaming bloody murder when Kamala was running. And now they have completely and utterly, and also been talked about by the White House, one way or another. So I think at this point, can we admit that maybe some of the the promises that were made to us as the American people, whether you voted for DJT or not, maybe we were a little bit misled. Maybe some of the stuff.
Brad, let me transition. Let me transition into this one right here, because you set me up for every point I want to make, and it's time to get into the weed, fellas. All right, I myself voted for Donald Trump both times. All right, and I'm going to try to be as objective as possible here, and in some ways, you know, I'm kind of in agreement with Tucker Carlson is kind of feeling the regret. You know, he issued an apology saying, hey, I think we screwed up voting for this guy. And I'll explain my reasons why. And I've had some time to think about these. And this might be a little bit of a long-winded answer, but stay with me. And this is something that I want the podcast, that I want the people watching these episodes to see, is how we think and why we think what we think. Because I don't want to just hear people say, oh, because I heard this, I heard that. I want to know why you think what you think. And here's why I think what I think. So when Trump was running, you know, he was big on immigration. And I took that as, all right, we're getting the criminals out. And I'll tell you why. Again, I've mentioned on this podcast that I used to be a police officer. In 2018, I arrested a young man once for violating a domestic violence protection order. All right. And he was of Hispanic descent, didn't know which country he was from. I believe it was from Honduras, but that's completely irrelevant. After his arrest, about a couple months later, when I went to court for it, they said, hey, this case is dismissed. He was deported back to his home country. So you guys know about the 287G program, right? That's an ICE detainer. That's something where local jails in like municipalities honor ICE detainers. Essentially, a non-citizen is held on an ICE detainer, and then the ICE can take over and deport that person back to their country. Somebody fact check me on that if I'm wrong, but that's basically the gist of it.
Gotcha.
When Gary McFadden was elected to Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office in December of 2018, he immediately got rid of it. What does that do for law enforcement? What that does is, I pulled someone over one time. He hands me a passport. Go back, type in my system. There's no record of this guy. If he would have pulled out a gun and shot me,
nobody would.
How would we have ever tracked down this person? The passport he could have handed me, I had no way of verifying. No possible way of verifying. Now, sure, I could go to the consulate office, but we still have no way of verifying in a timely manner who this person is or what they've done, essentially. That's one thing. Also, Trump also ran on the No New Wars, which we all know was a big thing for me, right? Like, sure, that's awesome. We saw in Afghanistan in 2021 could arguably be one of the biggest failures of our foreign policy in United States history.
In terms of pulling the troops out?
Pulling troops out, but we basically, watching the Taliban take back over within a week? What was it, a week? A few days maybe?
Yeah.
We spent 20 years there. Thousands of American service members died. We spent 20 years there. Now, you take the principal architect of chaos in the Middle East, Iran. All right, Iran, we've known for decades, since the 80s, since they took power in the Iranian Revolution, that their only strategy was to choke the Strait of Hormuz.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, that's one of the world's most vital oil supply routes. That's the only card they had to play, and that's the only card they need to play.
Mm. Yep.
And you also are dealing with a country twice the size, twice the population, maybe even 3 times the population of what we dealt with in Afghanistan and Iraq. Not to mention the fact that they are Shia Muslims. Little quick history lesson. Shia Muslims believe that the successors or leaders of nations should come from Prophet Muhammad and Islam's direct descendants. And they also believe heavily, more than the others, in martyrdom. So when they die for their country or their leader, Khomeini, you empower them more. And they have joined the great martyrs, and their reward in heaven is greater.
It's a different animal to fight.
And so when Joe Kent, who was the National Terrorism Center advisor,
counterterrorism,
he did an interview recently on the Sean Ryan podcast, and he admitted that the reason we went to war is because Bibi Netanyahu influenced him, showed him some intelligence that American sources didn't have.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the next point, right? So there's principle number 2 violated. And what I didn't mention in the immigration part was when I watched that lady in Minnesota get shot, this is all I could think about. Should she have been antagonizing ICE? No. Should she have even been there in the first place? No. Should she have been minding her business? Yes. So there's been independent journalists interview good ICE agents per se, and they've said that they're hiring the bottom of the barrel, basically the police department rejects. And so when you look at that video, you see the ICE agent on his cell phone standing in front of a vehicle with the ignition on and the person in the driver's seat.
Right.
When I was a police officer, that was the number one thing they said, do not ever do. Do not ever get in front of a moving vehicle and just stand there while somebody's driving. You cannot place yourself in a position to be forced to shoot.
Yeah. Well, it's part of DOJ policy not to do that.
Correct. But anyways, I'm giving you guys just 2 quick examples of why, I feel that this guy isn't living up to his promises. This guy is completely gone off the rails, and he's not who he was in the first term. So I'll pass it off to you guys. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I want to get in the weeds.
All good, man. Thanks for sharing, man. Thanks for telling us I feel like you had kind of an evolution over these past few years. Now let me ask you this question. This is an interesting one. This is outside of what we think. Do you guys, has your family or traditional influence, did that help you in your voting process? Did that help you pull the trigger
Absolutely
on how you voted and why you voted? Was it, hey, great granddaddy told me this, my dad votes like this, well, my cousin votes like this, and they all vote like this, so I gotta vote like this.
My family votes blue.
Yeah,
I'm the dark horse.
I think we're definitely informed by family to a certain extent. I mean, even for me, lesser so now because I'm older and my values and things are set. I mean, there's still some evolution there, but they're set for the most part. But my family's typically voted conservative. Well, no, I know you're trying to get in, but just quickly, the Southern Republican used to be closer to the Southern Democrat. So my grandparents were registered Democrats back in the day, but all of that switched over to Republican. I think Reagan is who gets credit for a lot of Southern Democrats moving to Republican. Yeah.
I mean, you did trigger something in my brain as far as like family dynamics. Here's my thing, what I'm not happy with. And I think about, even with our president or whatnot, if you have somebody holding the highest office in the land, you know what I'm saying? And so you have younger generations looking at them, how they conduct themselves in whatever situations, so I have to explain to my son, like, hey, because this is ideally back in the day, hey, it's a big aspiration for you to want to be the president, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, like when I grow up, I'm going to be the United States president, now that the younger generation is looking up, is that an example that should be followed? And do you think how this is a question that I want to ask. How deep into the fabric of society do you think whoever we vote for like changes the fabric of American society? I don't know if
I mean, based on this, what I've seen in the last 10 years, man, that shit's changed drastically, man. Drastically. And I say it's changed drastically for a couple of reasons. One, obviously we know social media has changed the world by itself, right? That's one aspect. But the use of social media in politics, I think that evolution is something that needs to be studied. That has shaped, even look at how Iran is responding to this war, right? We talked about the Strait of Hormuz, but we're kind of treating them like they're all just a bunch of ignorant savages. That's what we're being sold
the undertone,
over here.
yeah.
That's the undertone. But those motherfuckers are orchestrating. They literally are orchestrating videos of our history. I don't know if you've guys seen these Lego videos.
Oh yeah, the Lego videos.
These Lego videos are talking about all kinds of history. I mean, from slavery to
Native
civil
American
rights,
wars, yeah.
to our own wars, to how Trump's handling things in the White House, to, hey, this guy's actually lying about him meeting with us. We ain't never met with this motherfucker once. The shit's still closed. Like, this is a different type of warfare, and it has nothing to do with what I think we thought it would be. This is a different type of war.
Yeah, I think they've got their propaganda. We've got ours. But one thing we know for sure, who wants to go live in Iran? Like that's the whole, like,
Yeah. I don't think that's relevant, though.
Yeah, it totally
Why is-
is.
why is
It
that
totally is
relevant?
because it shows that our society, our influence, our prosperity, our values and culture is superior to theirs. Right. It is. It doesn't mean that they're not people and they don't have value and everything, but something needs to happen. So like slavery and all the sins of our culture, we could look at how they're treating women right now and how they treat certain people in their class right now.
I don't disagree with that.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't
So, like, yeah, if you want to buy into that, okay, I got you. Because, yeah, we do have some sins, in our culture.
Yeah.
But everyone knows worldwide, like, that place is an issue. Something needs to be done about it. They were the orchestrators of a lot of the terror that we saw
They were.
with the Iraqi war, even back in the 80s with the Iranian hostage crisis, the religious fundamentalists there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, but to say that, I'm sorry, no, my bad.
No, you go ahead. Man.
I was just gonna say, so you made a couple big points there, and I just want to double back. So my point behind saying them making these over social media, using social media,
yeah, our platform, stuff that we've created,
I wasn't,
you know what I mean?
I wasn't suggesting that they are justified in their own sins, and we're not. What I was suggesting is that the tempo of warfare has changed. The tempo of how deals are made has changed, and that was my point behind saying that. And to follow up with your point, this whole idea that somehow their society is the skid mark of the earth, I think is very interesting, especially when you think about how much influence that we've had since the 70s, 80s, and 90s in the Middle East to orchestrate and take command, change regime. I think last month our president said that we're going to arm people in their crowds, amongst their people, to try to take down.
And that's a whole other conversation.
And so, so when you say that they are the scum of the earth, that is...
I didn't say that.
Well,
Come on, be fair. I said our culture is superior to theirs. It is.
You said nobody
it's
wants
totally
to live in
superior.
Iran, and they're all shitty people.
I didn't say they're all shitty people. I said the exact opposite. I prefaced it and I said...
Let me fortify my argument here.
Right.
Okay.
And even to be... Let me make this last point. Even to be even more specific, I'm talking about the government, the people that run that regime.
That's a good point.
And the propaganda, the people that are bought into and are controlled by that propaganda.
I want to say something real quick.
Go ahead.
I know you want to say something. You know what I'm saying?
Hurry up.
My bad. So my thing is, you can count on a snake to be a snake. You know what I'm saying? You can count on their government to be their government. They're going to keep on doing the things, everything that you guys have described. They're going to continue doing those things.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's disappointing for me, going back to the question that you asked earlier, is like, we here at home want to be able to trust our own. You feel me?
Sure.
And so my thing is like, raise your hand if you've ever got to a schoolyard scuffle. You know what I'm saying? Hey, meet me at the bus stop. We about to squab, right? In what fight have you ever, you feel me? You guys are fighting or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You guys get done. And then after that,
Shake hands.
no, we're not even shake hands. It's just like there was no decisive blow. You feel me? There was no decisive blow. Like I didn't knock you down. We tussed, we wrestled.
Yeah.
Teacher yanked us apart. You know what I'm saying? I said I'll meet you at the school. I'll meet you at the bus stop tomorrow again. We'll try again. But then me going back and being like, yo, bro, I killed that dude, bro. I knocked his head off his shoulders. Dude was on the ground laid out.
I see where you're
you know
going
what I'm
with this.
saying?
False
My thing is, like me going back to my friends for clout and being like, yo, you didn't see that joint, bro? Like, nah, that's not what happened.
Saw it and they like,
That's
nah,
not what
what happened.
That's not what happened. My thing is like just honesty with, we already know, we expect the propaganda, you know what I'm saying, for every China, you know what I'm saying, Iran, whoever, we expect for them to come with some BS. You feel me?
Sure.
But it gets shaky and it gets disappointing, and it's like, no, who can I trust? We know we can't trust them. But I don't know that I can trust my own. You know what I'm saying?
To tell the truth.
Right, because the thing is, like when they come back and they say like, you said that you won, you feel me? But like you have not won.
It's
Matter
still
of fact,
close,
matter
man.
of fact,
It's
we
still
getting
close.
ready to light y'all up with something else. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of like, that's my only thing. Like I want to be able to trust our own, and I know that there's minute details in that is not straightforward or whatnot, but I feel like that's been a big thing for me. Like, what can I actually trust?
Yeah.
And so that's
Let me piggyback off that. Who here has heard of the Kent State Massacre?
National Guard.
I have not. Educate us on that.
So essentially, I think it was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Kent State was having some civil rights movement type protest.
Mm-hmm.
The governor of that state, I think was in Kansas. Am I losing my mind? Kansas?
I should know.
Maybe
what
it's Kansas.
Kent State is, but yeah.
But regardless of what state it was in, the
Right.
governor of that state called in the National Guard. National Guard ends up shooting unarmed protesters, and I believe they were African American, if my history serves me correct. Apologize, audience, if I'm getting these facts all incorrect.
fact checkers.
But I don't know how many people died in Kent State. I think it was 13, if my memory serves me correct. When we started bombing Iran, February 28th, weeks before that, that country had been having some of the biggest protests they've had since the Iranian Revolution in 1979.
Okay.
And from what news sources tell us, again, these are Western news sources, 30,000 of their own people were executed by their own government. 30,000.
Sheesh.
Right.
Now, when our president of our country gets up there and says, go take back your country, well, they tried, and 30,000 people pay with it in blood. I don't think at that point you're going to get any more regime change. I think that they have shown that this government is willing to kill their own people
To maintain
and
control.
And to piggyback on his point, I do agree with our society, being, I don't even know how I use this correctly, but morally better, right? Because even though we have our issues,
Right.
we have so many issues, but, the National Guard isn't going in, Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, or whatever it's called. We're not going in and murking 30,000 people, dragging the bodies to the street, not letting the loved ones see their deceased. So I think when we say
I have and so this is where history.
we're not changing this regime unless we put boots on the ground, which is going to cost us twice as much as Afghanistan and Iraq did combined.
I don't disagree with you, and when I say I don't disagree with the statement that 30,000 people being killed by their government is horrific, horrible, and should be checked on an international level, I don't disagree with that. Here's where we have the moral issue. The moral issue is that there's a lot of first of all, I'm not gonna like I said, I love being an American, but I'm also an honest American, and we have done some freaking atrocious shit in this country to our citizens over the last recent 60, 70 years. That's one example that I didn't know.
That's why I use Kent State as the
Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, where they destroyed a whole town. They don't even have that shit in the history books. I didn't learn that until I was an adult.
Yeah.
So we've swept a lot of our own shit under the rug. We've tried to hide and say, well, that's the past, even though it was like 60 years ago. So I think when we can't really, the moral argument is very difficult unless you want to start digging everything up. Now, their moral calamity is different because it's based specifically on religion, and it's based specifically on their sect of Islam. And so we don't recognize that because we're not Islamic, the majority of us. So it's hard for us to understand. But we did understand segregation. We did understand, you know, how people feel about LGBTQ. We do understand these issues. We understand more readily, and if we go against them, for us, it's not a moral challenge. It's that's how it's supposed to be in our country.
Yep.
So to then go and say, again, it goes back, you talked about Venezuela briefly. To tell another sovereign country what they can and cannot do is reminiscent of British imperialism. Is that what we want for our country? Is that where we're at? If that's where we're at as a country, then let's be honest about it. Let's go ahead and call it out and say, yeah, we're trying to we want to take over the goddamn world. And it's what we say as the United States because we have a superior society. And if we think your society is not what we think it should be, we're going to step in and fuck shit up. Because that's what
those aren't the only options. Those are not the only options. Seeming and reality are two different things. I disagree with that. It doesn't seem like it.
That's the approach.
It doesn't seem like it at all. Maduro, you could not negotiate with him. He was holding that whole section of the world hostage with his oil, and also a failing economy and a country of people yearning to breathe free. And Trump had the balls to do something about it. Same thing in Iran. Cuba's probably going to be next. These are all places that someone has got to do something about. And who's going to do it? Like you're regretting voting for Trump. Okay, so you would vote for Kamala today if you had the same choice, or you would just not vote? Because that's the other thing too. If you don't like Trump or whatever, you have to replace it with somebody. So who is that replacement piece? And then on top of that, who is this perfect vessel that we're ultimately right. So we agree that like whoever we put in there, even if it's us, there are going to be some flaws and things, and stuff's not going to go the right way.
So I agree with what you're saying, like, but it goes back to that fabric of society or American society or type thing. It's like, hey, we're gonna encounter like crap storms, right? But again, like when I go to my son, hey, this kid punched me in my freaking throat. He's going around and hitting. He's taking kids' lunch money. Okay, so you're telling me that you're sick of it and you want to do something about it. All right, let's talk about the correct way to handle it. You know what I'm saying? So I do agree that like Maduro and I mean things with Cuba and all those types of things. I agree with that. I think we need to take a step back and figure out how we do it tactfully, because the thing is, I feel like that's where we are losing ourselves as a society. We're just sort of like, hey, whatever has to be done, we're gonna do it, even if it looks ugly, even if it's a war crime, even if half,
well, it's a nail and hammer approach.
Even if half of our society is sort of like, hey, that's freaking, even if half of us believe that somebody should be thrown in jail for it, you feel me? My thing is like, okay, how can we handle this and do it correctly? Because that goes from the top all the way down to the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And so I don't want to, you guys are fathers. You mentioned an example with your son. I don't want to talk about anyone's kids. So I'm just going to phrase it like someone you love. So say someone you love was in that situation. And it seems like you were alluding to the proper way to handle it would be to like talk it out, get the teacher involved, et cetera, et cetera. And say you do that and you try that and you try that and it still doesn't change. At some point, you're going to have to say, person I love, you're just going to have to get them right between the eyes, man. You're just going to have to. That's the thing with the Maduros and the Irans and the Kim Jong-uns and all that. Yeah. We've been in communication with them. Even the presidencies, the administrations that say like we would never talk to them. I don't think that that's totally true. There's probably some sort of communication there at some level, or even if it wasn't for their administration, it was in previous administrations. Like these people are people who have this type of posture only understand force, it seems to be. And that's the only mechanism that can be used. And like the Maduro perfect freaking operation, right? I think 32 Cubans lost their lives, but no American casualties, no Venezuelan casualties. We've lost 14 service members in Iran so far, obviously a tragedy. But over this ceasefire and blockade, like no casualties or anything over, like look at Ukraine and Russia. That's a war. They're losing like 25 grand a month. You know what I'm saying? That's a war. Like this is a military interaction, intervention, et cetera, et cetera. This is the ideal way to handle it. It could be a lot nastier.
I agree that we are the pioneers of 21st century warfare. You know, we definitely excel in that part. You know, the Maduro operation was pretty cut and clean, right, for the most part. You think
master
it's
class.
Absolute master class. Man,
why do we need to do it though? That's great, right? Masterclass. I applaud our veterans for doing what they do. I applaud our military for going in and doing what they're doing. But for what? So hold on. Let me because here's where it's very interesting to me. This all of a sudden we have this warmonger approach to how we handle international affairs. And I think that we have created a monster, a machine, and are beginning to, and we're starting to see it all over the world with our allies from the Middle East, from Europe, from everywhere, that we are isolating ourselves. And for what? We went after Iran, okay, for the possibility of a nuclear development. BB's been talking about that since the 80s. He said in the 80s that they were a week away from nuclear power. 96. Okay, thank you for that fact check. So since 96, he's been saying that they have this power. And we got buttered up, or somebody in the White House got buttered up enough, because this offer was on the table for previous presidents, conservative included, Democrat and conservative. You're saying it's the guts to do it. I'm saying that it's a show, a horse and pony show that is trying to give Americans this mythology, again, that we can be imperialists when we don't need to be. And you know what it's costing us? $25 billion in 2 months. You know what it's costing us? Going to the gas station today to fill up my charger, and I gotta pay $85 just to get the shit to be filled up, because it's $4.19. California is $8.15. You know, and then so on and so forth. So you're saying that it's just a conflict. Okay, but this conflict is costing us, and for what? The Strait is still closed. We knew it was going to be closed.
Sean, let me pose this question to you. Let me pose this question to you guys first, right? Because we're using the strongman approach. We stopped messing with Little Rocket Man over in North Korea once it was verified they have a nuclear weapon. So let me ask you this, because I agree that not every nation should have a nuclear weapon. And yes, like, hey, the U.S., China, Russia, hey, we're the daddies of the world. Let's just call it for what it is. We're the daddies of the world. Yeah. We say, oh no, you can't have a nuke, right? So I do think we should stop Iran from having a nuke. But it is interesting to think that we have completely stopped messing with North Korea ever since it was verified they have a nuke. So that plays into the factor. If we didn't have the strongman approach and Iran did get a nuclear weapon, again, this is a Shia Muslim extremist government that, again, believes in martyrdom.
Okay.
If we didn't do nothing, do you think these countries would be developing nukes, therefore making the world a much more unsafe place?
I think the nuke is just a deterrent, just like it was during the Cold War, where, you know, we are the battle of arms, or the race to arms, is a race of dominance in your region. It says, don't fuck with me because I will fuck with you. Don't play with me because
I'll annihilate you. Actually,
we'll annihilate.
I'll take out 20 million people in one blast.
We'll annihilate each other, right? Like if you go, I go. If they go, we go. And that was the Cold War in essence. And what we decided to do was fall the hell back. Everybody fell the hell back. And it created a sense of peace. I'm not saying I want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but what I am saying is technology across the globe is going to continue to spread. We are saying that we can have whatever the hell we want, but then we're also saying to everyone else, y'all can't have shit.
Yeah.
It's a very
Correct.
interesting dynamic that I don't think works for very long.
It's because the daddies of the world piece. It's because the world operates best when America is in that daddy position. It does. Would you rather have China in the daddy position or Russia in the daddy position? Like we already have the post-war of the last 80 years or so of what America's been like in the daddy position.
Yeah.
And yes,
Japan and
there's
South Korea are
issues
perfect examples of
right. There's
American
issues and this and that. And it's
intervention.
not perfect, but the world operates better when we're in the daddy position. That's why. Because like we were talking about off camera before this conversation, because we are fundamentally a Christian country, we have tolerance for other beliefs and stuff. But again, to Iran, you would never go to Iran as a Christian and expect to have some sort of
Same
fulfillment
rights.
of life.
Right.
It's not a thing. And then yes, gas is high. We can all agree on that, right? And that does stink. And I don't want to sell you like the temporary pain for long-term gain, right? Because that's the way it's being billed. I kind of think that's kind of I agree with you on the nuclear weapon piece. Yes, they shouldn't have a nuclear weapon, but I think this is ultimately an economic play that's happening there in Iran. Many of the other countries have already signed the Abraham Accords, and we're trying to work these economic partnerships with them. Something's got to change with Iran in order to do that. But don't you guys think it's interesting? This is where I'm going with that. Don't you think it's interesting? We don't even use oil from the Straits of Hormuz, yet our gas price is affected. Like, that's OPEC. That's the conspiracy from these global conglomerates, Why, like Europe's falling? We pay for NATO, man, or it's NATO. Like that's the whole thing there. Like we pay for their defense. That's why when you go to Europe, they can take all of August off and go on vacation. And this and that and the third, because we pay the lion's share of it. We pay more than any other country by far. And we're not even involved, in all of that. And Trump has gone and tried to renegotiate with them. The countries were giving like a 1.5% of their GDP. Maybe it's a little higher now, 2 or 3%. And then you've got rebellious countries like Spain that said, we're not doing anything. Okay. Well, this is why
a couple European countries, and that was the point that I was making earlier. And I don't want to cut you off, but I think you kind of foot stomp what I said earlier, which is, we are isolating ourselves, and I think it's because of the approach.
They're ripping us off. If they want to isolate on us, that's on them. We protect them. We pay for that. But
we've been shown that we can't protect We can't protect them, and that's what's happening. And that's why the Middle East is dissenting. That's where they're not.
The only
offering
reason
help.
Ukraine has had the defense they've had is because of the American involvement. Like
because we're paying them billions. That's why.
Correct.
But not because.
And they're not even a NATO country.
They're trying to get in here.
It also has strategic implications for us.
It does to step in. But you made a couple good points there that I want to highlight. You said you would never go to Iran because of our Christian values.
As a Christian, and expect to put my tent up and make a go at life.
And
assimilate into the culture the same way that someone who practices.
You're not going to walk down the street reading your Bible saying,
right.
Well, hey, sir, let me talk to you about Jesus.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're not going to do that. But to assimilate means to interject yourself into their society, not be your own society and then bring it in and then say,
whoa, brother. What are they doing in New York? What are they doing here? Opening up mosque and it rules for thee, not for me.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I think it's interesting that you're saying that, but yet we're fighting beside Israel. In Israel, they spit on Christians. I don't know if you knew that.
I agree.
That
is a whole. I agree.
We are. I think there was not. I think Fox News put it up where not too long ago they had somebody from their military and stomping or taking a hammer and battering down an upside down Jesus Christ. So when we talk about the point I made, but we're happy to be alongside them though.
Yeah. Well,
which is it? Are we upset
because Israel is a Western country? They're in the East, but they're a Western.
Hold on. But see,
country.
This is the moral hypocrisy. Are we mad because they don't have the Christian values we do, Because if that's the case, then why are we over here helping this country? Why are we okay with them possibly having nuclear weapons?
Well, people would frame it as the Judeo-Christian values, but it's a Western culture, modern culture as we know it. The question I have for you or anyone else on the panel, how captured do you guys think Trump is by Israel? Like if you were to give a percentage,
I think
40% captured, 80% captured.
I
How would
think
you guys respond to
he
that?
went in 2016. He was 0.
Mm-hmm.
2026, I think he's 90.
Okay.
Because if you look at his rhetoric, and I've seen clips of this, if you look at his rhetoric from 2016 in the early years of his first administration, you saw that he was very critical of Israel. And what's the correct term? Is it APEC?
APEC, yeah.
APEC.
Yeah.
He was very critical of it. Now all of a sudden he's out there kissing the wall, just like every other president. Is that a conspiracy? I think so. I mean, again, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ is Lord. He was raised from the dead by God. These people in power in Israel do not believe that. They're Orthodox Jews. For the audience who don't know, they believe in Judaism. They reject Christ's divinity. You look at Ben Shapiro as an example.
And I think they've tried to pass law or legislation that you will have jail time for talking about Jesus Christ.
I don't support a nation that is not aligned with Jesus Christ because, again, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with that, I'm sorry. I don't agree with you at all.
So then now what's the moral argument for going against Iran? What's the moral argument? Because we just established that we are in bed and do business with a country.
Right.
Maybe that's not moral though.
But they're negotiable. Like that same thing for the rest of the Middle
They're
East.
just getting paper from us.
Same with the rest of the Middle East or the Middle East countries that are involved in the Abraham Accords. We're still able to conduct business with them. They're rational. They want economic prosperity for their people, modernization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is not the Persians. Iran, okay, they're a different thing, and for the most part, the Israelites are a Western country and share many of those Western values with us. Okay. Like it just from a culture standpoint, we could go to Tel Aviv tomorrow, and it would be a modern city.
No, listen.
Look at the Gaza Strip, bombed out and depleted. Who would want to go there? Right? So,
I think that's a horrible example of having any type of moral value. I think that's a horrible
I'm not laughing.
Horrible example of having any type of moral value. If that's what you're getting at.
The Gaza Strip, I agree with you. Whoever's been running the Gaza Strip has a very severe agree with you.
It's about to get hot.
I mean, that's
hot take time.
I want to say this because I used to work for a country. I used to work for a company that I'm not affiliated with any foreign countries, but I used to work for a company that was heavily affiliated with Israel, and the people are amazing. They're beautiful people.
Agreed.
And so I don't have anything against them having their own sovereignty. So if you guys are following me, I'm pretty baseline and 100% principle. Like my principle is you have sovereignty in your country. Now, I don't like the fact that some, not all, but some people in Israel disrespect Christ. I do not like that. You just, admitted the same thing that I believe, which is the divinity of Christ. They don't believe that. And not only do they not believe it, but they also are anti-Christ in the sense of they will go against. This is some of the people in Israel. Now, but they also have the sovereignty in their country to run their country how they want in their country.
Fun fact, biggest LGBTQ community is in Israel.
Didn't know
There's
that.
a high percentage.
So I didn't know that. That's amazing. So that's what I'm saying. How come some countries can have the sovereignty? Some countries can do. But then we pick and choose. I think it's very interesting. But I do want to segue because we're running out of time. How do we feel about the immigration effort? How do we feel about how the immigration effort that was promised to America to go after the criminals, to make our country great by eliminating all of these rapists and killers and murderers? How do we feel about how that ended up? 2 top officials from immigration were let go. They had queries and investigations into their careers and into their decision making under the Trump administration, with billions of dollars wasted on commercials and all kinds of other shit. How are we feeling about that? Was it a success in you guys' eyes? Was it a failure based on the promises made?
It's still ongoing, so that's one piece of it. I do think that it's, again, better than any alternative.
Well, Obama did it better.
Okay. Hey. Okay. Well, like we said, we would MAGA would love to run against him in 28 or his wife. But I doubt that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe you could say that, but that's also at the end of 8 years, and you're looking back on it retrospectively. What we know is his vice president, as president, did a terrible job of it, and his vice president, who was the Democratic nominee, would have done an even worse job of it. So it's still ongoing, but I think it's more successful than not. I think that you're going to have some turnover. Again, people are going to get turned over. You know, that was the thing about Biden. He never fired anybody. No one got fired. Like, so wait a minute. You're telling me that you're running, you know, the power ship country of the world and you don't have any turnover in these positions? What company is that? You know, so we will ultimately look at the numbers.
Decision making to me, if I don't got to fire the people I put in power. Why do I have to fire the people I put in power?
Because that's just the way business goes. Like, what is the business that doesn't have to fire people? What business is that?
Right, but this is the problem. We shouldn't be running a country like a corporate Fortune 500 company. We should be running because that's not what it is. Unless you want to live in an oligarchy, which I don't. This is a democracy. He put people in power.
So companies are oligarchies?
They can become oligarchies.
But are they inherently and fundamental? Like, isn't there a way that you could run it and it wouldn't be an oligarchy?
Well, an oligarchy is a form of government, right? An oligarchy becomes an oligarchy when you allow the very, very rich to take control over how things operate. And so, yes, if you allow the very, very rich to make decisions and buddy up and start monopolizing everything by buying everything in your country that should be a democracy, then yes, it can become an oligarchy.
What percentage of oligarchy would you say our country is right now?
What percentage?
Yeah, or like, do you think it's an oligarchy right now? Or
I think it can head in that direction if we continue to go down this path of allowing and giving tax cuts, like in the big beautiful bill, to people like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and all these other giant corporations because they fund me. You fund me like Tesla, right? Like Elon Musk sending $250 million to help a campaign. Right. And then getting an actual assignment in our government, although he's not an actual citizen. But we claim that we want to get rid of all the immigrants taking all this,
Wait a minute. Elon was naturalized. He was naturalized. He's not a born citizen, but he was naturalized.
Okay.
But, you know,
I thought he was South African.
SpaceX and NASA were already in cahoots prior to that. So he's had some connections, big money connections to government. Yeah.
And then had a seat of power to eliminate federal employees in our government.
Right.
And to make us report to him as if he somehow was a citizen telling other federal citizens how they should be living and what they should be doing.
Let's take a different perspective here.
Okay.
All right.
We got an interesting guy in the room, right? For those of you who don't know this guy right here, speaks multiple languages, runs a soccer league.
Oh man,
crazy.
Yeah.
And not to pry too much, and you don't have to share if you don't want to. But
I don't want to talk about it.
I imagine you deal a lot with the Hispanic community, things like that. Tell us what you hear on the ground, man.
So I mean, as
far as immigration goes,
no, for sure. I'm not gonna tell all my business, but what I will say, as you guys were talking, I was thinking about this, and I want to go back to my point earlier when I was like, man, like how much of what the government is saying can I really trust? Based off of what I've seen, that is sort of like, man, I don't know if that's true or not. You got other people saying it's untrue. And so my thing is, when we're talking about immigration, it's easy to just throw out numbers, right? Sure. Like, oh, this amount of people have raped our women. This amount of people have went and killed, whatever. And so my thing is, are these decisions being made because, hey, they fit a political agenda and I'm gonna have to go super hard on this to appease and stay in office? and that's the first thing. Is that the only reason? And then the other thing is, are we really like thinking about what we're doing and the effects that it's going to have on the economy, right? Because the thing is, you really, I mean, and nobody likes to what's stereotype, you feel me?
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who are working crops, a lot of the people who are working in, you know, restaurants and in certain industries happen to be those who have been here for like 10, 15 years and who don't speak English. I'm keeping it funky with you, you know what I mean? And so my thing is, and so when you start to get rid of those people, and then, oh my goodness, there's a gaping hole in our industry, and like nobody wants to go out and work in 105-degree weather in Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? Now you're thinking about the decisions that you may be like, crap, bro. Like, hey, can you? And you go to another diet. You know what I'm saying? You go to another group of people, and you're like, hey, can you go out there? And they're like, you have lost your mind. We are not going out there, you know. And so my thing is, and please correct me if has this happened or not. Like, is there something in place to where it's like, or has this been said? Hey, we want you to actually come back and work. You know what I'm saying? These people are not that bad after all. You know what I mean?
That is a catch-22. Yeah.
And so my thing is like, okay, so I thought you were murderers and rapists. You know what I'm saying? I thought you were killing our people. And so my thing is, I was like, how far into the future have we thought about the decisions that we're making? And it goes back to my prior point. Like, how much can I trust of what is being said if you're flip-flopping based off of, is it a political agenda or in fact, are they really killing, you know what I'm saying, and raping people? Or is it us doing that? And so I'll just, you know, that's something that I think about.
The framing of that. So whatever the number of immigrants are, 20 million over the last 10 years. I'm throwing numbers out there.
Right, of course.
So like the framing that 20 million are rapists and murderers, like obviously that's not true. There's no culture in the history of humanity that you would say like, oh yeah, all 20 million of those people, they're all rapists and murderers. But we call their bluff. We call agriculture's bluff on that. Like agriculture and all of these industries, dishwashers that have been able to get by paying people under the table. And also too, so is the answer to allow them to stay here and allow them to continue to be taken advantage of by getting cash jobs under the table, low pay, because they don't want to pay an actual market. Agreed. Right. So we call the bluff and we say, hey, you know what? We have Americans that will do that job. And maybe it's not going to be their final job, right? Because I don't think anyone dreams of being a dishwasher, but there's certainly a sect of Americans, especially younger Americans, that will do that. They've done it before. Yeah. Same thing with working in the fields or anything else. We're calling their bluff on it.
Right.
You know, and here's the thing, like, hey, say like you go out into the field and you're working one of these jobs, you could start your own business in that industry and you'd be doing $500,000 in sales and labor in 3 years or whatever the number is, because we know that there's a serious demand for it. And you better hop on it because the machines are coming. And then once that happens, all of that's going to be to the wayside. And I don't know what they're going to do then.
To your point, I do think, again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? I do think that there's corporations. I do think that there's businesses that need to be penalized for, hey, you paying under the table and you're getting over on the government. Okay, we need to have that conversation. Now, but as far as the people, I think that's like a different conversation. Look, I've met, and this, I'm not trying to go off into a whole different thing with this. One thing that I absolutely hate is blanketing people. Right? That's the reason I hate like astrology, bro. So you're telling me you were born in November, that means you're this, that, and the third, and everybody who's born in this month. I hate that. That's stupid to me. You know what I'm saying? And so my thing is, I know lots of black people, of course, you know what I'm saying? I know lots of white people, know lots of Hispanics.
Yeah,
and so my thing is, I've met good and bad from every sect of life, and all of them. Everybody has their, you know what I'm saying? Just like families, everybody's got that person, that uncle who has issues, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure. And so like, that's why it's so crazy to me to politicize this thing and then just go and blanket a whole group of people and be like, y'all got to get out, because I'm making these facts up and I'm saying that you have raped this many people, Now, if that's what I'm saying, like, if there are businesses, there are malpractices in businesses, let's hold them accountable as a country. You feel me? Let's do that. But I don't know that.
I haven't seen that. That's not something I've seen.
I personally don't think that villainizing an entire group of people and being like, yo, you got to get the heck out because that putting them in a cage and you know what I'm saying?
But no, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper because we scratched the surface on a lot of these things, but we don't really touch the fabric of where that policy is driven from. Now, audience, I don't know if y'all have heard of Project 2025. Okay. The writers of Project 2025, and initially DJT, our president, did denounce, or not, he didn't denounce it, but he said that he was unfamiliar with it prior to him getting elected. But then he ended up taking the writers of Project 2025 and giving them government positions. If you have a chance, audience, go check out Project 2025. Within Project 2025, you have several pieces of drawn up potential legislation to reduce minority influence across the board in every facet. So that includes Hispanics, Asians, Blacks. In every facet, there is legislation that is essentially trying to peel back any type of minority influence. You take that as you will, go read the document. I'm not going to tell you what to take from the document, but the document was created and it is something that is available online to view and read. It is pretty large. And so my question really is, what is the driving force and motivation behind getting rid of these people? Why are we so offended by knowing that we are a melting pot? This country has been a melting pot since the day it was founded. Since all the countries discovered the new land, France, Spain, all of these countries discovered this new land. And without going too far back, eventually there were colonies that were created. The Spanish settled in South America and they eased up. Remember, California was a part of Mexico at one point, right? Spanish-Mexican War. Spanish-Mexican War. And so if we really dive into the history of America, we know that America is diverse. It is mixed with a bunch of different European countries and languages. English is what it became over time, and that's what we settled into. But we know it's been here. Why? What is the mythology? And maybe
there's a limit.
Educate.
Well, there's a limit too, right? Like, I mean, you look at, and this is what I believe happened with Joe Biden's previous administration.
Yep.
I believe they were letting people in for votes.
But they can't vote.
A very short-sighted goal.
They can't vote.
They can't vote legally.
So
But that wasn't but legally wasn't the argument. Illegally was the actual argument. Talk about mail-in ballots, all these different things. Regardless, that was a very short-sighted goal if it's true, which I believe it was true. And I think these people were let in for political reasons. What they did when they got here, they didn't care about. They were willing to deal with the repercussions. It's just like corporate America. It doesn't matter what happens in 10 years. It matters as long as my profit goes up next quarter.
Okay.
That's my opinion on why they were allowed. So many people were allowed to come in. But you look at other countries, and I'm going to use Poland as an example.
Sure.
Right? Like, you have to have a limit on how many people come in here because we can't just sustain an infinite number of people straining our healthcare system, straining all these different things. And the only real solution to this problem is two things. Either you grandfather in everybody here or you kick them all out. That's the only two solutions I see that are actually viable. And
why not reform what we have so that way we can actually make sure there's a track for these people to come in the right way? Look, when Donald Trump said, I'm going to build the wall in his first term, I was with it. And I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but I was like, yeah, build the wall. Why did I say that? An actual real wall that he said was going to be magnificent, that Mexico was going to pay for it. It never happened. Okay. But if the wall did happen, I thought that was a great idea because I thought it was humane. Here's a humane way to keep people out of our country that don't belong there unless they do it the right way.
But was he building it and it got stymied by the next administration?
I mean, I don't know.
That's a topic of debate.
Listen, every single president has to deal with opposition. So I can't really say, oh, I feel bad because, the Democrats blocked it. Well, I mean, the Republicans blocked what Obama wanted to do.
I think we're hitting the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah,
it's a push and pull It's a push and pull every time a new administration comes in. And you and I were talking about this, and not to pivot away from immigration, you and I were talking about this week. It's for the audience. Sean and I have, had the privilege to work together, although temporary, for a little bit, Monday through Friday. So I see a lot of this guy, and we have a lot of debates like this. Marchione, to your point, you had asked me, you said, would you have rather Kamala? No, absolutely not. That's the last person I would have wanted.
Why?
That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But my point is this.
We here.
My point is this. I agree with you when you told me this. You said something drastic has to change. We need to do things different from the way it's going. There's talk about the dollar losing its value and China. And if I call it now, you can save this now, May 1st, 2026, China will be the world power in the next 50 years if something doesn't change.
I think it's sooner than that.
Probably possibly even sooner than that.
Yeah.
But something has to change. But Bernie Sanders isn't it, brother.
I don't.
Bernie Sanders isn't it, but
I'm a fan of Bernie, but I don't want him to be president. I agree that Democrats, and listen, I vote blue typically, but I'm also in the center in the sense of there are things that on the blue I don't like. But I think what every American should be doing is, regardless of how you vote, you need to analyze what people are doing and not bandwagon and ride nutsack.
So yeah, I definitely agree with
There's
that.
a lot of nutsack riding going on.
Well, yeah.
And
I got another.
we got to stop doing that.
all right, let's hear the
There's one
analogy,
more
sir.
analogy.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, bro. So my thing is like, if you grew up in an impoverished part of the city, you know what I'm saying, and then there's a lot of gangs there, and the gangs blue and red. Let's just put colors on there, right? Blue and red. The blue.
You're talking about Republican, Democrat, not
I
Bloods
would
and
never
Crips.
say that. I would never
Well,
say that.
I'm saying to make sure you're not referring Bloods and Crips.
Gang.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't do. Yeah,
Well,
we
he
don't
said
do that.
impoverished
Spartan
neighborhood.
blue
He said
team,
Spartan blue
Halo blue team, red team.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that. Let's do that. Yeah. But one is like, hey, either you get down with us or you don't
you
get
lay
down
down.
at all.
Yeah,
And then the
you
others,
lay
you know
down.
what I'm
Property.
saying? And so my thing is, and especially amongst us, this is why this is important to me. I've made a decision that I'm not going to show or allegiance to either one. You know what I'm saying? So I will never be blue or just like red, just based off of either my parents or just because, hey, like that's the thing to
You're
do.
supposed to do it.
Like before everything, before like everything that I am in life, like I am a child of God, right?
Yeah.
Man of God. And so my thing is whoever lines up with that, candidate wise, that's who I'm going to rock with. But it's from this point on in my life, it'll never be like, yo, it's red all the way or it's blue all the way, because there's definitely things on each side that I'm just like, I can't get down with it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And so, and then I encourage people to, hey, be your own man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get why people believe the things that they do, but especially for us as men of God, like I just want to encourage us to really like base how we move and the influences, the people in this country, the people who are at the top of the totem pole and how we move with that. Like, let's base that off our relationship with God and really praying on that and be like, yo, God, what do you say about this? And then move like that, like regardless of.
Now, do you think, here's I'm going to follow up because I agree with you, but do you think that we should be separating church from state as originally prescribed for us, right? Originally, we're supposed to separate church and state. And the reason is, just like in the Roman government, we saw how Rome fell. You had one person trying to become the deity. How do you do that? Well, you become the deity by assigning church to the state.
I'm not even saying like assign the church to the state.
Okay.
I'm saying purely based off your relationship with God,
Your personal
and what is
relationship.
presented to you.
Yeah.
That be like the driving factor in how you vote. I'm not saying like on a big scale, like, yo, like everything has to be that.
I got a hot take on that. So the separation of church and state, I think the separation of church and state fundamentally is a good thing for the reasons that you said. However, I would like to see the church more involved in terms of marriage and the state less involved. Okay, because whenever you get married, it's a legal arrangement, and potentially sometimes it can be a spiritual arrangement. I would like to see more of that shifting to the church, less to the state. As a matter of fact, if you're not believers and you want to get married, a civil union, it's something else. It's not marriage. I'd like to see marriage be more protected by the church.
For sure.
And then to what you were saying, Noe, I understand that perspective. But there is no perfect party. There's no perfect candidate. There's no perfect church.
This is very true.
A pastor once said, if you walk into a church and it's perfect, you need to leave because you're the one that's going to mess it up because you're not perfect. So like that's just a piece of life. And I know people that are still like independent for that reason. But I think now is more of a time to stand up and be counted for what you believe in, or at least it's our generation's opportunity.
Sure.
You know, there were generations
100%,
before us, there'll be
100%.
generations after us, but it's our generation's opportunity to do the same. And that's why I am a registered Republican, and why I am so steadfast on supporting the current administration.
Do you think they represent Christ in any way?
More times than not. Like, for instance, Roe versus Wade being overturned. I cannot think of a more pivotal issue for faith believers than that.
Why?
And why? Because abortion is murder. That's what we believe. You can disagree with that belief, but that's what we believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And what communities does that affect the most? Abortion.
Well, sure. And
you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's an important point.
But should it not be the state's decision to, and the Supreme Court's made the decision, so it is what it is. I'm not trying to like double back on that. But going back to, you know, separating church and state, and the reason, again, I'll highlight my reason for saying separate church and state is because what happens is when the church gets entangled in the state, you have political entities that take it and try to become the deity of that particular government. And so a perfect example was when our good friend DJT posted that Jesus post. That is a 100% even though we're laughing and we're like, ah, ha, ha, ha. There are some people that weren't laughing and they took that to heart.
Yeah, there's some people that were already thinking that before he even posted the picture, but that's anecdotal.
But again, going back to the Roman Empire, right? History will teach us everything. Going back to the Roman Empire, when Julius Caesar wanted to make himself God, right? When you have the deity, the system under you will crumble. So going back to what you were saying about the abortion, I don't disagree with what murder is and what God teaches us how he will judge. But it also says that God is the judge. Not you, not me, not these two. So I find a lot of times in conservative rhetoric that they are the judge. They feel as though they should be judging what all of these people are doing. And I find it to be very interesting because when you start to dig into people's backgrounds, like some of these hardcore Republicans, it's a little fishy, right? You got people whose husbands walk around with titties on their chest. They're cheating with the guy that's working right under them. There's a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah, and Epstein had a picture of Bill Clinton in a dress on the wall.
Trump.
I mean, no, not of Trump. Not of Trump. Fake news. It was Bill Clinton. It was Bill Clinton. No, they got some.
You talking about with the dress on?
Yeah,
Picture
Bill,
of,
yeah, you've seen it too.
Right, not with the dress,
exactly.
but yeah,
That's
the
what I'm
picture.
saying. Like, that's across the board. And yes, we do believe the world and our culture is better when we are in charge. And like, yes, to a certain extent, there is a default judging piece of that, but there's a default judging piece to your belief system or others that might be in our opposition. Like they would believe in total tolerance for the LGBT community across all scopes, and if you don't believe in that, we're judging you.
I agree,
right?
and I don't agree with that.
Right,
I don't agree with that.
So
I think that's
wrong.
wrong.
That's just the nature of taking a position. Is that someone's going to say you're judgmental, but then the person that's saying you're judgmental is also kind of being judgmental for saying that you're judgmental. You know,
I think extremism on all cases is wrong, and I'm saying that now we have an extremism that's taking it to a legislative. It's one thing to say that, hey, in this community in San Francisco, it's a lot of LGBTQ participants. This is how they vote on a local level. This is how they live. Or hey, in Georgia, the Bible Belt, we got a lot of conservative, people here in the community, and this is how they vote. And locally, this is how they move. It's a whole nother ball game when you have people literally calling people villains and criminals for their belief system and saying that they should be put in jail and saying that because of a vote or how you vote that you shouldn't even be allowed to run. That's saying that there should only be And this has happened. in
Yeah,
this
yeah, right. Of
administration.
course. Hey, look, let me escalate.
Okay, yeah,
I'd
go
say
ahead.
the biggest thing that Trump's got to do for the rest of his term is survive. Right?
Well, I think
Can
now,
we
yeah,
all
yeah,
agree
yeah.
that survival is number one? So, like, yeah, like that. But, bro, that rhetoric is coming way hotter and faster and more real world at the right now. Like,
What do you
so.
mean? What do you mean?
Like, so the assassination attempt last week at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner.
Heard a lot of people say it was staged. Even some of the
So
insiders.
that's a bad faith
I just
comment.
said
Yeah,
I
I know, but I'm not.
Hot take.
I'm
This
not
is a
calling
hot
you out, but I'm
take.
saying that's a bad faith comment because the only way to disprove that comment is if the assassin is successful, and then if the assassin is successful, then you can say, oh, well, it wasn't staged. But anything short of the assassin's success is because they say the same thing about
Well, it was
Butler.
just kind of fishy. I mean, he just kind of walked in past all security with the weapon. I mean, that. But okay, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it was staged. I'm saying that yes, I agree. But rhetoric is not creating this on the other side.
Rhetoric is not creating the.
It's not creating an assassin. No.
You don't think so? You don't think
No.
Charlie Kirk? And this might go back to Israel because
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what
go ahead.
Candace is saying. Well, I know Candace is saying it. I don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Tucker and
This
some
is
of the
good- this is
others.
good conversation
right?
right
Right.
here.
But like, so you're saying that rhetoric had nothing to do with that assassin. Rhetoric
No.
had nothing to do with Butler. Rhetoric had nothing to do with the Washington Correspondents' Dinner.
I'm saying
I
left.
totally don't believe
I'm
that.
saying left. Rhetoric has nothing to do.
I
with
think
it
it does because I think the left
think-
rhetoric machine is programming people to think that.
Who is it programming?
Who is it
And
programming
what's
these
the program?
assassins?
What's the program exactly?
The assassins are the ones being programmed. The
By
big
what?
media, the big entertainment industry, just to name a couple, are the ones that are doing the programming. That Trump is the worst president ever, et cetera, et cetera. All of that rhetoric. Like I think stuff like Jimmy Kimmel's a little bit of a distraction, but that's an example of what
He's
that
making
programming
jokes
rhetoric
about
is.
somebody in office as is his right to do
About
as an
him being
American.
dead. About him being dead.
Okay. Fair enough. All I'm saying is we have freedom of speech. It's all good when people have freedom of speech when they're saying. All I'm saying is this.
Okay.
I feel like the rhetoric that is helping push and funnel the energy that could possibly lead to somebody being assassinated. A lot of it is coming from both sides. So I will agree with you there. A lot of it's coming from the right. When the guy died, Robert Mueller, is that was his name?
Yeah, Bob Mueller. I didn't like that. So to one of
Yeah.
Trump's things that he didn't handle well, I
That
agree
was-
with
that
you.
was
I
pretty
agree with
harsh.
you.
It goes both ways. Okay. So I can see where your point is. I don't want the president to be assassinated. I don't want anybody thinking that they should
Hey,
take up
none
a
of us
weapon.
do.
None of us do.
None of us want the
None of us-
president to be
absolutely not.
assassinated.
None of us, none of
Yeah.
us do. I want the president to live, and I want him to do great, so that way our country can do great. But we have to be honest as Americans when mistakes are being made. We have to be honest to Noe's point. He's been making it all night. A lot of the decisions that are being made, it seems like there's not a lot of thought that goes into it beforehand. There's a lot of excuses that come after. Well, maybe this happened and we didn't know. And then, well, this happened and we had to turn around and we had to change things because the situation changed. Okay, but you have a room full of advisors. That's why I said when you talked about Biden not firing anyone, is it possible that maybe he was confident? Now, maybe you didn't like what he did. Some of us didn't like what he did. I didn't like everything
Well-
he did, but he was confident in who he put in office.
They didn't even like who they did. That's why they skirted him out and put Kamala in.
Well, we all know that he was getting old. Let's just call it what it is. He was
right,
getting old.
like,
He was getting old. But
like-
at least they were. But at least they had the balls to do it. At least they had the balls to say, you know
Right.
what?
Hey,
this guy's
and
getting
Kamala
old.
versus Trump turned out better for them, right?
Well, I mean, she only had 2 months to run, so I mean, and she got
So
48
what?
million votes. So what?
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty
what?
damn
She only
good.
had 2 months to run. Like
That's
so.
pretty
So
damn
what?
good.
So what?
Well,
yeah,
let's
she
give
lost.
a-
Like losing is losing.
Give her 10 years.
Losing is losing.
Well,
her
let's
10
give
years.
She's
Kamala-
retired. She's retired. She's totally retired.
Well,
Let me
let's
make this
give-
last point, and
go
then
ahead,
I'll let you
sir.
wrap. Like so, with Iran and winning, that's the thing. Wars. People don't have a problem with wars. People have a problem with losing and being in quagmires long term. So if this plane gets landed with Iran, it will.
think it's over?
Well, not that it's over, but like things like the midterms and all these other items coming up, it will posture better for them. Okay, that's
Well, I
me.
tell you,
I'm out.
if they scrap a good nuclear deal, it'll hard to be say it wasn't a win for America.
Can I just
And we
say
get
one
the
more
gas
thing?
price
Let me
down.
just say one more
Go
thing,
ahead.
and then I'm gonna let you close it. We had a nuclear deal, guys. We had one, and guess what? The counterterrorism community said there was no uranium or not enough uranium to actually make a nuclear weapon prior to the attack. And you know who struck that deal and had peace for 8 years?
Who was it, sir?
Barack,
Obama.
who put $270 million cash on a plane and flew it over them as a part of that deal.
What do you think the 10 demands to open up the strait was to Trump?
Yeah, they want reparations for all of these attacks.
Well, that
They're
money
not
was
getting it.
that money
They're
was
not
also
getting it. That's why it's
frozen.
a
That money was
non-starter.
also frozen
Okay,
assets.
That's it. I'm out for real. I'm out.
But regardless, we're going to give Kamala Harris, if you're watching our podcast, we're going to give you some advice. Don't use Meg the Stallion twerking on stage as a political campaign if you decide to run in 2028. All right,
Please don't
you know.
do that.
Don't do that.
Anyways, we hope you all enjoyed this episode. We look forward to seeing you the next one. Please list all your comments. Bring your hate. Bring your love. We want it all. Let us know what you think. See you guys next time.
Peace.
Cheers.